It's your open source advocate, and I'm back, and I've got another video for you today. And today I want to talk about something a little different. I know I normally show you installs and how to set things up and how to do stuff, so I want to upfront tell you that this is not a video about how to install bug reporting software or help desk software. I've done some of those in the past, and I'll do some more in the future for sure. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about being good stewards for open source and the best ways to report bugs or ask for help, because I get lots of requests for help from you guys, which I don't mind at all. I want you to understand that right now. I never mind if you want to ask me for help doing something that you've seen in one of my videos or trying to do something. But I want to also give you some guidance on the best ways to go about getting the best help that you can and the places that you should look for help. So let's just go through that. It won't take long, I promise. And I think this video will be very helpful for any of you that may be looking for assistance or for help or for places to ask for the right help. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers and all of my patrons over at Patreon. Seriously, you guys make this so worth it for me to do these videos every week. I really, truly enjoy it, and I just can't say thank you enough. If you're enjoying these videos, subscribe. Let YouTube know that I'm doing a good job by subscribing to the channel. Plus, you'll get notified when I have new videos coming out. And finally, if you're enjoying what I'm doing, give it a like. Just click on that thumbs up, and that way YouTube knows that you like it, and they'll pass it along to other people that might enjoy my content as well. I really appreciate it. Thank you again. Let's get started. First of all, I'm not someone who cares about language barriers. If you don't speak English natively, if you're worried about your English, don't. Feel free to type to me. If I don't understand what you're asking, I'll ask you to clarify or try to help you, by asking some follow-up questions. But if you're trying to use Google Translate, feel free. Use a translating application and send me what it translates, and I'll do my best to understand that. And feel free to tell me what your native language is, and I'll do my best to also translate it back to your language when I send it back to you. And again, understand that sometimes Google Translate's going to make mistakes. I'm doing my best to communicate to you, and you're doing your best to communicate to me. Language is tricky, and I know this. My wife is a native Spanish speaker. A lot of her family still just speaks Spanish. And a lot of times there's just misunderstandings because of the way that translation versus interpretation works. So don't feel bad if you're not a native English speaker and you're trying to get me for help. I'm happy to do my best to try and help you. Please don't let that slow you down from reaching out for help. Understand that if you are reaching out to me specifically, I do have a full-time day job that takes up quite a bit of my time. I have a family. They take up a lot of my time. I do these videos. This takes up a lot of my time. So I'm not looking to be a contractor. I'm not looking to set up your systems for you, because once you set up a system for someone, you also take on the burden of maintaining those systems and making sure those systems are up and running. And even when people say, no, we'll do that, yeah, I understand. But when you hit something that you don't understand, you're going to be on the phone or on chat really fast asking me for help, and you're going to be anxious to get your system back up and running, and I just don't have time to commit to doing that. But if you're really in need of someone to help you with that, most of these open source options that I'm showing you every week absolutely have pay options. They have options to pay for support. They have options to pay for help setting things up. They have options to pay for hosting if that's what you need. So check those out. And if you don't see it on their site or you don't see it on their page, reach out to those guys and ask them, like, hey, do you have a way that I could pay you to run this for me? Or do you have some kind of option to pay to run this for me? Or do you have contractors that you trust that I could work with to run this for me or set it up and get it running? That's always a feasible option. If you're willing to pay me, be willing to pay those projects and help them keep their projects going for sure. When it comes to asking for help or looking for the right places to ask for help, especially because I'm not always the best person to help you, I can show you how I do it and how I set these things up. But a lot of times you guys have different needs than I do. Maybe you're wanting to run this on bare metal and I'm running it in Docker, or maybe I'm running it on bare metal and you want to run it in Docker. And if I haven't done the setup that you're asking about, or if you're not following my video pretty much, to the T, it may not work, and then you're going to be reaching out and asking me for help. And be upfront about that. Say, hey, I did change this and that, and let me know that, because sometimes my first thing is going to be, okay, if you follow all of the steps in my video exactly, does it work for you? And if that's the case, then the first step of troubleshooting is figuring out what did you change and why did that make it not work. That can help us tremendously in a lot of cases. The second thing is, if you use a different, even something like using a different OS base can make a difference. If I used Ubuntu and I'm running Docker on that, and you used CentOS and you're running Docker and you can't reach your page and I can, my first thing is going to be, hey, is your firewall on and is it blocking the ports that you need to access? Because I'm not a CentOS expert, but I do know that CentOS comes with the firewall up and running in most cases right out of the box, whereas Ubuntu does not. You have to actively go turn on the firewall and set your exceptions, versus CentOS, where you would have to set your exceptions because the firewall's on, or turn off the firewall depending on how you're wanting to run your system. So these are the kind of things that I would be asking from you whenever you're reporting bugs and asking for help. So the next thing I want to talk about is places to go and look for help and ask for help, and the types of information you should provide when you're looking and asking for that help. So when you ask me for help, a lot of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the steps that I know to go through for checking for issues in software and trying to find solutions. My main day job, I'm a product manager for software that serves public safety and law enforcement and fire and EMS. And it's very, very important that that software be up and functioning all the time and functioning really well, because these are emergency services that can basically be the difference between life and death for a lot of people. So I do a lot of testing, and I want to make sure that I have a lot of answers for the developers when I find something wrong. And the first things that I collect are basically this: what software am I trying to run? Now, in my case, I ask this question because I have a lot of videos, and if you just say, hey, I got this error, and you don't tell me in what, then I have to ask you what software it was. So if you'll tell me up front, like, hey, I was trying to run Mesh Central, and when I started up, I see this error. The next thing I'm going to ask is, what OS are you running it on? If you're trying to run it on Windows or Linux or Mac, and what distro of Linux, those things all can have an effect on how it may be running or why you may be seeing certain log errors or things like that. So that's really super useful information. Are you running in Docker or are you not running in Docker? This is important, because if you're trying to run on bare metal, it runs different and you run different commands versus running it in Docker. And the setup can be different, and you can have different results whenever you do it this way. What have you tried so far to fix the problem? Because if you can tell me, hey, I saw this error and here are the steps that I tried to fix it and none of those worked, I still get the same problem, that saves me from going and trying to do the same steps or asking you to go do those steps again to try to fix that problem. If you can tell me what the results were from doing those steps, that can help. That can have a difference. Now, if I give you multiple steps to try and you say, well, I did that, but you didn't do them in the order that I gave them to you, that can also have a pretty big impact on how things work sometimes. So make sure that you're doing things in the order, whether it's me or somebody else is asking you to do them. You know, don't skip around. Make sure you're doing them in the right order. If you find errors in logs, definitely tell me what errors you found, or tell the people what errors you found and post those errors with your request for help or your bug report, because those things can help them track down much more quickly where there might be a problem in the code or there just may be a problem in your configuration. It just depends, but that's super useful information. Can you provide exact steps to reproduce the issue? This is very important, and a lot of people miss this one. So many people will say, hey, I was trying to run this thing and I got this error and I don't know why. Okay. Errors can happen anywhere in code. So if you can say, hey, I was trying to run this thing and here's the steps that I followed. Like, I followed your tutorial and I got to this step, and if you can tell me what the command is, I can go check my show notes, or I can go back and check my notes, or I can go watch the video. You know, I got to this step and when I did it, this is what happens and this is what I see. I can go back and watch and see the steps ahead of that and ask relevant questions now, because I know where you got to and where it stalled for you. You know, if you were doing something where you kind of had to figure out the steps on your own and you're asking a GitHub repo for help, they're going to want to know, like, what steps did you follow, or what steps are you doing? If you're in the software and you're seeing an error that you wouldn't expect, they want to know, like, exactly what are you doing to get this error to pop up, because they're going to go try it. And knowing, like, what OS are you running? Are you running in Docker? What have you tried so far? All those things leading up to this one are really going to help them quite a bit. So make sure that you get this set up in a way that you can tell them step by step exactly what you're doing and what commands you're using and then what you're seeing. And then finally, have you already searched online for the error messages along with the name of the software? So when I hit things that I'm not sure about, the first thing I do is I copy that error message and I put it in quotes in Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever. And then I also include the name of the software. So if I'm running it with, against Jellyfin and I'm getting an error, I'm going to highlight that error and copy it, and I'm going to paste it in so that I get exactly correct, because other people are going to have searched for this solution and there may be a solution out there, and using that text can really help. Now you may not want to copy an entire error message if it's really long, but sometimes there's like several parts to an error message and they're separated by colons or periods, and it can really help you to kind of grab a piece of that and include it with a search for the software name, and you may find those solutions right away on how to fix it. That's a lot of times what I'm going to do. If you give me logs, I'm going to look at the logs and I'm going to say, if I can't tell right away, I'm going to grab it and just go Google it anyways. So it may be easier for you to do that. So letting somebody know, like, hey, I've already searched online and I didn't find anything. Maybe I didn't search right. Maybe you can help me figure out some other ways to search, or send me some results if you find them. That's fine. That's okay. So when we start talking about how to do it, this is the steps that I do and the steps that I take when I'm looking for answers. And there's more than this, of course. There's nuance to it, but this is a good place to start if you're not really familiar with how to ask for help or how to report bugs or how to report issues you're having. The next thing is knowing where to report those things. So I'm going to jump over to the browser here. And when we start talking about where to report issues, the first thing that I look for is things like Reddit. So a lot of projects have their own Reddit page, and that's a great place to ask. And sometimes it may just be a fan who started a page on Reddit. So you can see here, like at the top list is this Remotely app. So the one that I talked about, that's kind of like TeamViewer, but it's open source and self-hosted. It's an amazing application. Some people have issues with it, so they go over and the creator created a space inside of Reddit, and you can go into that space and you can ask a question. Now that doesn't mean you'll get an answer, that doesn't mean you'll get a solution, but he's pretty good about jumping on occasionally and trying to answer things. I jump in there and try to answer things when I know that I may be able to help. And as you learn and you see these things happen, you'll see the same question you've asked repeated by other people, and you can jump in and help as well. So that's the great thing about these social sites like Reddit. I like Reddit a lot. I think it's a great site. It's a great place to go look for answers and try to find help. So if you ever see a Reddit link as something where somebody's asked a question, it may or may not have the solution, but it's worth taking a look, and it might lead you to a solution even if it doesn't have it written out for you. The other place is on GitHub. If you're looking at open source projects, they probably have a GitHub page or a GitLab page if they run their own stuff. Could be on gitlab.com, but go find their page for their open source software. If it's open source, they should have it somewhere where you can access the code and the repositories and things like that. And you want to do that. So if you find a problem, you can go to that GitHub page, and then right here at the top on most GitHub pages, there's this thing that says issues. You click on issues, and then you just click on over here, new issue. Now, if you see that there's issues and it's got a number out here, that means that's how many issues have been reported that are active. So you can search, and GitHub has a really good search. So come to the page, find issues, and then search right here. And it's going to say, hey, do you want to search this thing, or are you just wanting to search GitHub in general, or where are you wanting to search? But once you pick where you want to search, it's going to search inside that repository, and you might find the answer before you even post the issue. So double check and make sure nobody else has asked that question. And if they've already asked the question and it's not solved yet, you can add your comment to it instead of creating a new one, because that just creates noise that the developers now have to go through and figure out, okay, well, this issue and that issue are related, and it's just more time they spend not fixing the problem. So if you just add to an issue that already exists and say, hey, I've got this information that might help, or might help you figure out what's wrong, give it to them. Again, just reading through what other people have tried might help you figure out what's wrong with yours and fix it, and then you can post that back and help them. So as you find solutions, that's the last part of being a good steward, is don't just find the solution and fix your problem and move on. Once you've found the solution, make sure to post that back in other places where you've searched and let people know, like, hey, I've been looking for this for a while, and here's how I fixed it. If you've asked me and I couldn't help you, I always want to know, like, when you get it fixed, what was it? What was the problem? What did you run into? Because there may be other people who are trying to do the same thing, and I can help them because I have that access to them, or you can help them by posting in the comments for that video, hey, here's how I solved this problem. I saw a lot of people asking about it. If you have things you want me to do videos on, you can request that I do those videos. Just understand that, again, I have limited time, unfortunately, to make these videos, and it takes me quite a while to do it. I'm doing the Home Assistant series, which I'm having a lot of fun with, and I'm loving it. I'm about to have some giveaways for my Home Assistant series, so if you haven't been watching those and you're interested at all in home automation, go check them out. I'll have some giveaways coming up soon, some for the US side, some for or I guess I'll say the Americas, Canada, US, South America, and then some for Europe and the other parts of the world that use the 220 volt, 240 volt stuff, because I made some orders and I got the European standard stuff that does not work in the United States because our output power is 110 to 120 volt, and it is not enough to push those things. So instead of returning them, I thought, you know what, I've got some good stuff here. I'm just going to give it away to my listeners and my subscribers. So I hope you guys will be subscribing and listening and watching those things. So if I don't answer you quickly when you ask for help, don't get discouraged. I promise I'll jump to it as fast as I can. I'll do what I can to give you answers. I'll ask questions to try to at least lead you down the right path to find those solutions that you're looking for. I want you guys to be successful. I want my videos to help you be successful, and that's what I'm always after. If you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along on the journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.